I just got off a Zoom call with a gentleman in London who's a footballer, a soccer player in the United States, and we were discussing the fact that he still feels a lot of tension through his chest. And I remember during our first session, when we were going through a technique, I'm always observing a few things: foot placement, pelvis position, and chest, because I want to see whether someone's chest is rising and falling with inhalation and exhalation. I remember with this gentleman, it was not. The chest, there was really no movement at all, and I made a note of that. I said, there's definitely a lot of tightness through that chest. Now, years ago, I would have thought, well, first of all, I wouldn't even been looking for that years ago, but if I had been looking for that years ago, I thought it would have been, well, he must be tight in his chest, he needs to stretch his pecs. And now I know that's probably not the case. The chest probably does need to be inhibited, which means those muscles need to be turned off because they are restricting movement, but that's not the same as stretching. And a muscle to be inhibited just needs to be turned off. It doesn't need not to be stretched. You don't need to stretch a muscle to inhibit it. It just needs to stop being overactive. So why do pecs, and we're going to talk about the left pec, because that's really the big issue. And if you do PRI, if you're a PRI practitioner or you're studying PRI, there's a section in one of the manuals called Left Pec Inhibition. And it's all about inhibiting the left pec, getting that left pec to shut down, to turn off. And it was probably one of the last muscles that I actually understood, which means if you understand why you need left pec inhibition and why it gets tight, because it can be tight, but again, it's usually overactive, not just really necessarily tight. If you understand why the left pec gets overactive and why it needs to be inhibited, you kind of understand the whole system, because it's one of the last muscles that you really have to worry about in the well, you have to worry about it, but it's one of those muscles that is not the most frequently difficult to inhibit. But if it stays overactive, it can completely throw off a program. So the left pec, when you're on your right leg, remember, left AIC pattern, pelvis turned to the right, right BC pattern, right side of the rib cage down. So everything through here and here is tight on the right side when you're in this right BC, right TMCC pattern. So your rib cage, here's the right side, is smushed down. Ribs are closer together through the right side. On the left side, everything is opened up, externally rotated, open. Okay, so here we are on the right side. In this position, our sternum, the front, is turned to the right. We're on our right leg. We have to counter rotate back to the left. It doesn't mean your sternum is pointed to the left. It's still to the right. It's just in a state of counter rotation back to the left side. And here you are stuck in your left AAC, right BC pattern, and you are in a perpetual state of leftward rotation, never completed rotation. So you're constantly in a state of leftward rotation. So you go leftward rotation, back to the right, leftward rotation, back to the right, leftward rotation, back to the right, never fully getting to full completing leftward rotation, because you never fully get to the left because your pelvis never actually gets you there. So this left pec constantly is trying to pull, 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 pull. And it never gets to complete the motion because you can never fully get on your left leg, so it never gets to relax. That's one issue. That's why the left pec gets overactive. The other issue is this, and this is what my Zoom client was so perceptive in realizing, and he knew it. I was talking about that the chest, when it's tight, the issue is it restricts arm movement. He knows that he cannot bring his right arm back when he's running. It is the left pec that is preventing that from occurring because, and it's kind of a roundabout, if you can't get on your left leg fully, so you can't turn your pelvis to the left, you can't shift into left AFIR, that means your spine and rib cage can never fully rotate to the left and compress on the left. Go back to my compression video like 2 weeks ago. Got to compress on the left. And at that point, on your next inhalation, the right side can open up and that right arm can move backwards. If you can't get air into the right chest wall, this right arm can't move back. Your right shoulder blade is just completely stuck. So in a roundabout way, you have to inhibit the left pec. And if you look in the Left Pec Inhibition part of the Postural Respiration manual, the point of Left Pec Inhibition is not just to inhibit the left pec, it's so that you can get air into the upper right chest wall and get the neck on the right side to turn off. Just trying to inhibit the left pec or stretch the left pec without getting air into the right side at the same time is meaningless to your brain. Because remember, in order for your brain to make sense of the left side, it needs to know what the right side is doing, and vice versa. To know what the right side, to make sense of the right side, it needs to know what the left side is doing. Your brain has to constantly compare sides. One side is meaningless. You as a human cannot know anything unless through comparison. You only know what you are because you know that you're not the other thing. If you just drop down on a mountainside at one point in your life, let's say you were born, you're already grown, and you just drop out of the sky and you end up on a mountaintop. You never see another human being before, and you don't see any. How are you going to know what you are? You might know that you're not a tree, but you're not going to know what the tree is. You're just going to know that that thing with the leaves and the wood doesn't look like you. But you won't know what you are because you have nothing to compare it to. So the only way that you can know anything about this world, really, is through comparison. That's why you have to have a sense of two. Left side, right side. If you know what the left side is doing, you have to know what the right side is doing, and vice versa. So stretching out a left pec without trying to get air into the right side at the same time is kind of pointless. Trying to stretch your left pec without sensing the other left side points of your body, like a left heel, a left hamstring, a left hip shift, without those, again, your brain doesn't really know why you want to inhibit that left pec, and it's probably not going to happen anyway. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. I know from my own experience that I had a very tight left pec. I always felt tight through that left pec, and I tried every left pec inhibition technique there was. And would my shoulder horizontal abduction get better? Yeah, sometimes, but it never stayed. Until I went out last August, August of a year and a half ago, 2 Augusts ago. And when I went out to Pure Eye Central and I got my glasses, the one thing that I immediately felt, besides the back tension go away, what I felt immediately was a sense of lightness, a complete relaxation all through my upper chest and neck, but I didn't really feel it. It was really through that's all. I just couldn't believe how light this area felt. And when I walked, my arms just floated like they hadn't floated before. And what happened? Did we do anything for my pec? Did we do anything for my chest? No, we grounded me. Not through my feet. I already had, my shoes were fine. It was my visual system. Again, I know we're back to vision, but it's just a good understanding. We had to use my visual system to ground me. And once I grounded, everything relaxed. The gentleman in London, I doubt his visual system is preventing him from grounding and thus relaxing his upper. But when you can't ground properly and you lose that sense of heel strike arch big toe, you lose sense of ground. These movements of the natural foot that occur on earth, on real earth, not on flat floors that we walk on, but on uneven earth, this foot is really maneuverable. Over time, because we live on flatness, a lot of people, pretty much everybody probably, will lose that sense of heel strike arch big toe in proper foot mechanics. When that happens, that becomes threatening, and you tighten up predictably through your lower back and your chest and your neck to help preserve you so that you don't fall. So the key we're hoping for him is he needs shoes, sneakers, that will give him sensory input that will allow his brain to relax, and this will then relax as well. This is what we're hoping. I've done it numerous times. you'll get these tests to completely change just by giving people different input from the ground. But I'm just using my own experience. Again, you're probably sick of hearing about my visual system, but I couldn't ground appropriately until I had the proper prescription. And when I had the proper prescription, my brain found the ground, it relaxed, this whole thing relaxed, my arms started to swing like they were just so light. No stretching needed, no techniques needed, sensory input. Left pec inhibition. You cannot inhibit a left pec permanently if you cannot sense the ground properly, because your brain won't know you're on your left leg. If you get on your left leg, the left ribs come down, the right side opens up, air goes into the right side, the left shoulder blade will go back into its proper position. Might need some help, but that's generally the idea. And now the left pec is inhibited, and now you can shift from, now the right arm will go backwards while you're on your left leg, and that's what it needs to be. So that's what left pec inhibition is all about. The difficulty becomes, how do you inhibit that left pec? For the majority of people, one of those left, and how do you know it needs inhibiting? Well, left shoulder flexion. If they cannot get shoulder flexion in their table tests, then you might need to inhibit a left pec. But it usually comes towards the end of any type of program, but it is pretty common. And that left pec, if you cannot bring that right arm back unrestrictedly, because the left pec is overactive and everything over here is too compressed, you'll start to feel it. You might start to feel it through your mid back on the right side. Why? Because to get your right arm backwards, you have to do this. You have to arch your back to try to get that right arm backwards. Inhibit the left pec. You can get to the left, get air in the right chest, and now the right arm can move back without restriction, and you don't have to do that to get the right arm back, so you don't have to get mid-thoracic pain over on that right side or through that right SI joint. So just wanted to throw that one out there because it was on my mind. Left pec is so important to inhibit, but you're not doing it just to inhibit the left pec. You're doing it so you can get to the left side, stabilize, get air into the right, bring the right arm back. You got right tricep, right low trap, and breathe in that position, and now you're truly on your left leg. If you found that video interesting, could you please like, subscribe, share, comment? It all helps, so I appreciate it. Thank you.